So I wanted to get into another top 5 list for you guys because honestly, the response to them have been so positive and so great that I really just want to keep giving them to you guys as much as I possibly can. I might end up having to take a break from them coming up here because, we're getting into NFL playoffs, and then obviously, the MLB off season is going to be coming to an end soon. Within the next couple of months, we're going to start spring training. Basketball season's going to be, really ramping up towards the All-Star break, the trade deadline for the NBA, and then it's going to be playoffs. So I'm not sure how much of those lists are going to continue to come over the next little bit, but if you guys want them bad enough, I will certainly continue to give you as many of them as I can, and not just NBA lists. If you guys want MLB lists, if you want NFL lists, just comment below, and I will certainly be giving you guys what you guys want, because that's what the whole point of this is, right? I want to give you guys what you enjoy watching. This channel will grow and hopefully turn into something. And so one of the things I wanted to do, as I mentioned, is do another top 5 NBA list for you guys. So this list is going to be my top 5 NBA players of all time. So I hope you guys are excited. I know I am. I love talking about players that have brought me joy and that have been really, really fun to watch since some from my childhood and some right now. And then obviously, I feel like I don't even have to say this, but this is completely and utterly subjective, guys. Obviously, probably no one else is going to have this top 5 list of my favorite NBA players. This is not a top 5 list of the best NBA players of all time or who I would pick as an all-time top 5. It's nothing like that. It's just the 5 players that I have enjoyed watching the most in my life. And hopefully that will give you guys some insight as to my background, as to kind of the players, the types of players that I enjoy watching. I hope you guys just kind of can hear the passion and the joy that comes from this, because really that's all this list is. It's not supposed to be controversial. It's not supposed to be, something that people are going to argue about in the comments section. It's just supposed to be something that's fun and bring a little bit of joy to some people. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. And with that, my number 5 favorite player of all time is going to be, a pretty recent one, obviously, in Jayson Tatum. Now, obviously, as a Celtics fan, right, this is going to skew a little bit heavily towards the Celtics. I promise you not all 5 of my top 5 favorite players are Celtics. That would just be lame. But there's going to be some Celtics players for sure. First one, obviously, being Jayson Tatum. He's one of the best players in the NBA right now. He's obviously the alpha on the Boston Celtics right now, who, as this is recorded, the only team in the NBA to have 30 victories on the season. He is a leading candidate for MVP. And even though Kevin Durant is technically leading votes for the All-Star game in the East, my guess is he's probably going to be hurt at that point. By the time the All-Star game comes around, because he's supposed to be out for around a month, according to reports that I've read. So, that's going to interlap with the All-Star game. So my guess is, even if Kevin Durant is the leading vote getter, he probably will not play in the All-Star game, or at least I'd be very surprised. So I wouldn't be shocked that even if Kevin Durant ends up leading in votes, that Jayson Tatum does still end up starting in the All-Star game alongside the rest of the starters there, and possibly even Kevin Durant. You never know what could happen. But Jayson Tatum, I mean, it really goes without saying, he's an absolute young phenom in the NBA. It scares me every time I remember that Jayson Tatum is younger than I am, because I've said this to some friends of mine, obviously, over the last couple of years, is I wish I was as good at anything as Jayson Tatum is at basketball. Even if I was as good at, taking off my glasses as Jayson Tatum is at basketball, I would be happy. Whatever it is that I would be that good at, I would love that thing so much, whatever it is. Even if I was just as good as scratching other people's backs, I would do it. Whatever it is, Jayson Tatum is just so good at basketball. And truly, it has been a blessing to watch him, and I cannot wait to watch him for the next decade plus. Hopefully, that whole decade plus is going to be in a Boston uniform, but obviously, I would not be surprised if that did not happen. I'm not saying he's going to leave soon. I'm just saying that I wouldn't be surprised down the road, some point in his career, Jayson Tatum ends up leaving, or gets traded or what have you. This is the NBA, guys. Obviously, things happen all the time. So you never know, but right now I am just enjoying Jayson Tatum wearing a Celtics uniform, and hopefully he will be leading us to a championship this year and hopefully in years to come. My number 4 favorite player in the history of the NBA is probably going to surprise a good amount of you, and that is Damian Lillard. He's my second favorite player in the NBA right now. He's just one of those guys that, every single time you watch him, he's putting on a show. He's hitting crazy shots. He's just making guys look foolish around him. And unfortunately for me, he plays for Portland, which, as somebody from, that has lived on the East Coast their whole life, I have unfortunately either had to stay up incredibly late to watch the vast majority of Damian Lillard's games or not watched them at all. So I have not watched nearly enough of Damian Lillard as far as I'm concerned. But I truly, truly hope that that man wins a championship someday because he deserves it. He's one of those guys that, you truly root for every second. He's humble. And you know what? I'm a hip-hop fan. He's a pretty good rapper, too. So, he's just a guy that you want to root for all the time. And, the fact that there were trade rumors going around for him for years and years and years, and he never wavered for a second. He never once said, I want out of here. Portland, you're not doing it for me. You're not building around me. No, he has stuck it out. Portland is his home. And you know what? As much as a part of me disagrees with that and wishes that I could just see Damian Lillard get traded to Boston, ideally, obviously, but, whatever it is, Milwaukee, the LA Clippers, the Lakers, the Nuggets, whoever, to just go after a championship right now. The other part of me so respects Damian Lillard for sticking it out, sticking around. Now, obviously, his career's not over yet. He could get traded tomorrow for all we know. But for me, I love Damian Lillard so much. He's given me so many great moments in terms of especially playoff basketball. Playoff Damian Lillard. If any of you guys watching this video right now have not seen Damian Lillard playing in the playoffs, it's a crime shame because he is one of the most dynamic and exciting players in the NBA as soon as he steps on a playoff court. He has hit 2 of the most memorable, game-winning, series-clinching, buzzer-beating three-pointers in the history of the NBA. And they were made by one guy. Damian Lillard is just unbelievable. He's put up 60 points, I think, in one playoff game when they were in the bubble, when Portland was in the bubble, something like that. I mean, just absolutely absurd stuff, and he's just so much fun to watch. On the defensive end, I guess he leaves something to be desired, but I don't care. I mean, Damian Lillard is he's just so much fun. He's one of those guys that, I truly feel like he is everything right about the game of basketball. He's a very humble, quiet star that just works hard and does his own thing, and he has stuck with one franchise so far, obviously, for his entire career, and that's something to be commended as far as I'm concerned. So Damian Lillard is my number 4 favorite player of all time. Number 3, I very easily could have put him at number 2, but I don't think number 1, but Kobe Bryant. He's one of those guys that I grew up watching, obviously, I'm only 25 years old for those of you guys who do not know that. Kobe Bryant was one of those guys that I had to hide my fandom of. I grew up in a household that was all Celtics, right? And so, rooting, at that point, for those of you who are maybe a little too young to remember, the Lakers were arch enemy number 1. And, in a lot of ways, they still are for Celtics fans out there. But I think, obviously, the dynamic of the rivalry has changed immensely since then. But Kobe Bryant was, public enemy number 1 in Boston in terms of Celtics fans. So, claiming to like him, respect him, even love him, that was really, really, in my house, blasphemy. It was one of those things where, my family hated Kobe Bryant, thought he was unbelievably selfish, thought that, he didn't make his team or his teammates any better, he never passed the ball. He complained all the time. Whatever the argument was, either way, he was public enemy number one, right? So, claiming to love Kobe Bryant was not something that was truly remarkably loved in my household. So, but it's true, guys. Kobe was one of those guys that I was mesmerized when I would watch him. I would. Such a funny memory. I don't know if any of you guys had this kind of upbringing, but I had a little desktop, older computer in my room, and I would play backyard sports on that computer. Sometimes it'd be backyard baseball, sometimes it'd be backyard football, but most of the time on that computer, it was backyard basketball. And I remember I used to have two different save slots open at the same time. I would have the one where I was always the Celtics, and I was always picking Celtics players or just backyard players and putting them in Celtics uniforms or whatever, or picking somebody like Shaquille O'Neal or something and then making him a Celtic, which he ended up obviously being a Celtic at one point. But I would have that open so that when my parents were in there, that's what I'd be playing. But then when my parents would leave, or whoever would leave, I would then switch over to the one that I was the Lakers, and I would always pick Kobe Bryant because, again, I loved watching Kobe Bryant, and when he died, that was a really difficult day for me. It was one of those things where it didn't make sense. I didn't believe it, and I know a lot of people have spoke about this, and at this point, it may be a little odd to kind of to talk about now, but truly. I remember one of my friends, Matt Williams, who has actually been on the podcast before. He came into my room and was just like, Kobe died? And I was just playing video games or watching a movie or whatever I was doing. Probably playing video games, honestly, knowing me. But I just went, no, he's not. I watched the part of the Lakers game last night. He was in the crowd. He was in the front row. He was at the game. Like, that was not even 24 hours ago. Like, because it was about, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the afternoon on whatever day it was that Kobe passed. And, and I was just like, no, just, don't believe what you're reading. That's a bunch of baloney. Like, there's, he didn't die. And then, I start reading articles. I start, seeing news feeds. And then when that ESPN notification dropped on my phone, I about dropped to my knees. And it was just crazy. And I remember Matt walked back in and he goes, see? I mean, I didn't want to believe it, but I mean, it's everywhere. And, unfortunately for the entire basketball community and the entire world, it was true. So it was a horrible, horrible day. I cried. I'm man enough to admit it. I cried. I'm not gonna shy away from that. I shed some man tears that day because he was an inspiration to a lot of people. Now, you could say whatever you want about his play style, that he was a ball hog or that he was selfish. I don't care about any of that stuff, man. Kobe Bryant is the closest thing that any of us that are, in our 20s will ever see, to Michael Jordan. He was our generation's Michael. And I know that a lot of people say that LeBron is our generation's Michael. And in a lot of ways he is, in terms of just, GOAT status and accomplishments and dominance, right? But Kobe was our Michael Jordan in the way that he played and carried himself. In his work ethic, in his attitude, in his absolute dogged determination to never let anyone be better than him at any moment. He always, always, always stepped up to every challenge, and whether he won or he lost, he did it with class. And, the guy made some mistakes in his life, sure. Made some mistakes on the court, sure. But at the end of the day, he inspired more people in the basketball world than maybe anyone ever other than Michael Jordan. And I'm including LeBron James in that as well. I don't think it is crazy to say that Kobe Bryant was a more impactful player in terms of inspiring others in the basketball community than LeBron James. And you know what? If you disagree with that, that's okay. And maybe it's just because he's passed now and we're remembering him differently. And maybe, hopefully not soon by any stretch, hopefully in a very long time, when LeBron eventually does go home to God, we'll remember him as more impactful than Kobe. Who knows? But for me, I think that Kobe Bryant, certainly in my life, inspired me as a basketball player, as an athlete, as somebody who wants to be in sports forever, much more than LeBron has. And LeBron has, I really debated putting him on this list as well, because LeBron has just been so prevalent in my basketball life ever since I can remember. So, I debated putting him on this list too, but, I never debated putting Kobe on the list. That, if that tells you anything, he was going on the list, I just didn't know where. So, obviously at number 3, honestly, very easily could be number 2, Kobe Bryant, is my number 3 favorite player of all time. Number 2, Paul Pierce. The guy who led the Celtics when I was a kid. He wasn't the best player of all time. I'll tell you that. But he was exactly what the Celtics needed, and he pretty much precisely represented everything the Celtics were in my childhood. He was a great offensive player, a tremendous shooter, a tremendous defender. He could post you up. He could take you off the dribble to the basket. He could fade away. He could hit the three. He was great at free throws. He had a fantastic, just dogged determination, attitude. And when Paul Pierce had the ball in his hands, you never felt like you were out of a game. And, he may not have been a better player than Kobe Bryant, and I don't think any of us would argue that he was. Even I think the most hardcore of Celtics fans at least shouldn't, right? I'm not going to say they won't, because, there are some people out there, right? But, that shouldn't argue that Paul Pierce was better than Kobe, because he just wasn't objectively in just about every aspect of the game. But Paul Pierce, for me, as a Celtics fan growing up, that's who you wanted to be. That is who, the vast majority of Celtics fans grabbed onto as, their hero, as their role model, as the guy that they wanted to grow up and be and meet and have dinner with and just ask a million questions until he explodes and kicks you out because you've asked too many questions and you're annoying the heck out of him. Or at least, maybe that's just me. But for me, again, Paul Pierce, tough to not put him number 1. But those of you who know me, who kind of know my attitude, who know my work ethic, who know, why I love basketball so much and the kinds of players that I'm drawn to, you will know exactly why Paul Pierce is not number 1, because you'll realize why the person who is number 1 is there. And so without further ado, my number 1 favorite NBA player of all time, Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett, for me, even though he was not a lifelong Celtic, he made more of an impact on how I viewed the athletic world and on how I tried to play than anybody I have ever watched. And it's amazing because, when you dissect it, right? Jayson Tatum has been a Celtic as long as Kevin Garnett was a Celtic at this point. Or at the very least, he's 1 year away. Kevin Garnett was not a Celtic for 10 years or 15 years like Paul Pierce was. He was a Celtic for 5 years. And in those 5 years, I learned more about what it takes to be a champion, about what it takes to be an athlete, about what it takes to get what you want out of life than I have watching anybody else play basketball. Kevin Garnett, for those of you who watch this channel that have not had the privilege of watching him play, in a lot of ways, you would be a little confused as to why Kevin Garnett was so great. Because, kudos to the NBA players now. They have so much just unbelievable skill, taking, 18 dribbles between the legs, stepping back and hitting a 35-foot three-pointer, nothing but net. Like, Kevin Garnett wasn't doing that, all right? No offense to Kevin Garnett, but he wasn't going to dribble a million times and hit a 40-foot shot. He wasn't. Kevin Garnett hardly dribbled, quite frankly, by comparison to a lot of players. He wasn't good at shooting threes. In fact, I can't even recall an instance where he made one. I'm sure he made a few corner threes or what have you, but he wasn't a three-point shooter. He wasn't a guy that was gonna just slice and dice you and carve you up on defense. He was a guy that could post you up, take you off the dribble a little bit, pull up that free throw line jumper. As his career, progressed and shooting became a little more prevalent, he'd step back a little bit, get that long 2-point shot that everybody hates now. So Kevin Garnett, at least offensively, he may not have been the flashiest player, although in his prime in Minnesota, he certainly was one of those dominant, big man threats and dunkers in the league. But for me, Kevin Garnett taught me the attitude you have to have in order to be successful in play. I mean, the guy, for those of you, again, who have not had the privilege of watching him, he was a crazy person. I mean, he was different. I mean, I just saw a tweet, and I don't even remember who tweeted it. I think it was, I don't remember what podcast it was, but I know Tyson Chandler was on the whatever podcast it was, and Tyson Chandler, obviously NBA champion, former defensive player of the year, one of the best big man defenders we've had in the last 15 years in our league. For those of you who obviously may have forgotten at this point who Tyson Chandler is, and he talked about stuff that Kevin Garnett used to say to him when they would play, and it was just like the most demeaning and horrible stuff, and just calling out work ethic and family and all this stuff. And, obviously Tyson Chandler laughs about it now, but at the time he's sitting there thinking, what the heck is wrong with this guy? This guy has problems. And Kevin Garnett actually responded to it, and he said, hey, man, in order for me to get where I needed to go, I needed to be different up here. I needed to go to some crazy psychotic place in order to have that dogged determination. Kevin Garnett perfectly harnessed the ability of hating his opposition regardless of how he actually felt about them. And I think that obviously that can be toxic, that can be bad if you're not able to separate that from your daily life or control it on the court to the point where you're not getting, hopefully you're not getting in fights. If you can't do that, then obviously it could turn bad for you. But for me, Kevin Garnett was just one of those guys that, I remember him doing an interview, I think it was with Isaiah Thomas, talking about the 2010 run where they ended up losing the Lakers in the finals, and I remember him saying that he actually his legs basically weren't working at a certain point. He was so tired that he actually had to scream at his own legs to work so that he could play defense, and it's just like one of those, like, he was just such a determined NBA player. He was such a determined person. And the backstory of where he came from and basically raising his brothers and sisters by himself, even as a young teenager, and being the man of the house at 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, and being drafted right out of high school at 18 and having to become a man basically on the court in front of the world. Turning out to be an outstanding basketball player and an outstanding human. Kevin Garnett, there's no one that has inspired me on the basketball court more. There's nobody that I enjoyed watching more. There is nobody that I wanted to emulate more. And there is no more favorite an NBA player that I have, maybe ever, than Kevin Garnett.
Hey guys, me again. Thank you so much for watching one of my clips from the Lopes Goes Last podcast. These clips are so much fun to do. I absolutely love making them and I absolutely love doing them. And this podcast is my baby. So I really want this thing to grow and I really want it to succeed. So if you did like what you see, please subscribe. Also hit that bell notification so you never miss any one of my episodes or one of my clips like this one. And please do also like and share these videos with your friends and your family so that we can make this thing grow as fast as possible. And I wanted to thank you again so much. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a great rest of your day.